Darian Voss, the man who vanished 12 years ago, leaving her with 2 infants and an empty bank account, stood frozen at the door, wearing a wrinkled thrift store suit and a look of disbelief. Because the woman he once abandoned was no longer the broke, frightened young mother he walked out on. She was Leora Maven, founder of Maven Estates, a multi-million-dollar real estate empire, recently featured on the front page of Wealth Sphere magazine. Elegant, composed, untouchable. Cameras snapped as she rose from her seat with effortless grace. Darian's throat tightened. "Leora, please, I just want to talk." She didn't flinch. "Security," she said calmly. "Escort him out." A ripple of gasps echoed across the room. The guards stepped forward, and Darian panicked. "Wait, the kids! Our kids! They need their father!" Leora's expression didn't change. Her voice, steady but heavy, cut through the silence. "You had 12 years to be a father. Now you're here because I'm wealthy." Darian's voice cracked as humiliation reddened his cheeks. "You don't understand. I'm losing everything. I need help." And then, to the shock of the judge, the journalists, and everyone watching, Darian dropped to his knees. "Leora, please, I have nowhere else to go." The room held its breath, because no one expected the words Leora spoke next. Before the courtroom, before the cameras, before the begging and humiliation. There was a time when Leora Maven believed in miracles. She grew up on the east side of Delmere, a forgotten corner of this city where streetlights flickered and hope came in small, fragile doses. Her mother worked double shifts at a textile factory, and her father had disappeared long before she was old enough to remember him. But Leora never complained. She learned early that survival required strength, grit, and sometimes swallowing your pride. At 19, she met Darian Voss. He was charming the way storms are beautiful, powerful, unpredictable, dangerous. An aspiring musician with a reckless smile, a borrowed motorcycle, and dreams bigger than the rented room he lived in. Leora didn't just fall for him. She fell into him, believing he was someone who would stay. Their relationship burned fast and bright. And then, just as quickly, everything dimmed. When she became pregnant with twins, Darian swore he'd step up, but promises were cheap, and responsibility was a currency he never learned to carry. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, of excuses, missed appointments, and late nights that smelled of clubs and broken dreams. Then one morning, Leora returned home from her part-time cashier job to find his drawers empty, his guitar gone, his clothes gone, his voice gone. Just a note on the table. "I'm not ready for this. I'll come back when I have my life together." He never came back. Those early years hardened her. Feeding the twins, working 2 jobs, studying at night, crying in silence. Delmere judged her, a single mother with 2 babies and no support, but Leora refused to drown. And in that darkness, she discovered something unexpected. She had a talent for numbers, patterns, strategy. Real estate fascinated her, how abandoned things could become valuable again, how broken structures could be rebuilt, how forgotten spaces could be transformed. Much like herself,
At 24, she convinced a small-time property owner to let her manage a decaying apartment building in exchange for reduced rent. It was a gamble. The place was nearly collapsing, but Leora saw something most people missed: location, potential, and opportunity. She renovated it room by room, cleaning, repainting, fixing plumbing with YouTube tutorials and sheer determination. Within a year, she turned that building from a liability into a profitable asset. Investors noticed. By 28, she had acquired her first property. By 30, her third. And by 34, Maven Estates was valued at over $40 million. Her rise was meteoric, but never loud. She built in silence. She grew in silence. She succeeded in silence. Darian Voss's life spiraled in the opposite direction. His music career failed before it even started. The friends who once drank with him drifted away. He worked odd jobs, spent money recklessly, and blamed everyone but himself for every misfortune. And yet, he never forgot Leora, or the twins, or the life he walked away from. He told himself he'd return when things got better. They never did. Debt piled up. Evictions came and went. His health deteriorated. And the world moved on without him. Until one day, while sitting in a bus stop with a shutoff notice in his pocket, he saw a magazine cover through a vendor's rack. Leora Maven, the millionaire who came from nothing. Her photo. Her smile. Her success. His heart stopped. He didn't think about the past. He didn't think about the pain he caused. He thought only of one thing. She made it, and maybe she could save him. That was the day he decided to reappear. Before Darian returned, Leora lived a steady, quiet life with her twins Saren and Kale, now 12 years old. They adored her, respected her, and protected her with a fierce loyalty born from seeing her struggle and rise. To them, their father was a ghost, a name without a face, a lesson without a story. Leora never spoke badly about Darian, but she never lied either. She told them, "He wasn't ready, but I was, and that's enough." She thought that chapter of her life was closed forever. She didn't know that the past had been watching her success with hungry eyes. She didn't know that the man who once abandoned her was about to walk into her life again. She was about to find out, and the first crack began in the courtroom.
Everything that happened in the courtroom had roots planted long before that day, and the first tremor began 1 week earlier, on a cold Thursday afternoon. Leora was reviewing development plans in her office when her assistant, Marin, knocked lately. "Miss Maven, there's someone here asking for you. He doesn't have an appointment." Leora didn't look up. "Tell him to request one like everyone else." Marin hesitated. "That's the thing. He says his name is Darian." Leora froze. For 12 years, she had imagined this moment. What she'd say, how she'd react, whether she'd feel anger, sadness, or nothing at all. But she felt stillness, a cold, clear stillness like the air right before a storm. "Send him in," she said quietly. The door opened, and there he was, Darian Voss, older, thinner, worn down. his once reckless charm replaced by exhaustion. His clothes wrinkled, shoes scuffed, eyes tired. "Leora," he breathed. Like her name alone was salvation. She didn't stand. She didn't smile. She didn't even blink. "What do you want, Darian?" He flinched. Not at her words, but at her tone. It held no love, no nostalgia, no memory, only truth. I came to see you, to see the kids." Leora clasped her hands gently on the desk. "You made your choice 12 years ago." "I know, and I'm sorry. Truly, but I want to make things right." She tilted her head slightly. "Why now?" Darian's jaw tightened. "I'm in a bad place, Leora. I just lost my job. I'm getting evicted. I need a second chance. With them. With you. With my life." There it was. The true reason. Not love, not guilt, not fatherhood. Desperation. "You're not here for the children," she said calmly. "You're here because you think I'm your lifeline." "Leora, please," but she held up a hand, ending the conversation with a single gesture. "This office is not the place for this. If you want to pursue a legal route for visitation, you're free to try." Darian's eyes widened. "Legal route? Leora, I'm their father." "You're a stranger. But if you want to make this official, I'll see you in court." And with that, she pressed the intercom. "Marin, please escort Mr. Voss out." Darian's face twisted with humiliation. "Leora, please. I have nothing left." "Yes," she said softly. "I noticed." He was escorted out, and the door closed gently behind him. But to Darian, it slammed shut like a prison gate. 2 days later, Darian made a decision that would ignite chaos. He went to the press. A small online tabloid published an article titled, "Millionaire Mogul Refuses to Let Father See His Kids." Darian was pictured sitting on a curb, head in hands, painting himself as the victim, a struggling father begging for a chance to reunite with his kids. He claimed Leora used her power and money to erase him. He claimed he never let him be involved. He claimed he feared for the emotional damage being done to their kids. The article exploded on social media. Complete strangers attacked Leora online. "She's heartless. Let the man see his kids. She forgot where she came from." Leora's PR team called her immediately. "Do we respond?" they asked. "No," Leora said. "Let the truth speak when it needs to." But she underestimated something. Darian was drowning, and drowning people tend to pull others down with them. The next day, he filed a petition for visitation rights. Not because he wanted to be a father, but because he wanted leverage. The twins, Seren and Kale, never cared about online drama, but rumors travel through school hallways, cafeteria whispers, and curious classmates. At dinner, Seren finally asked, "Mom, is it true that Dad wants to come back?" Leora felt her heart tighten. Not out of fear, but out of protectiveness. "Yes," she said gently. "He reached out." Kale frowned. "Why, after all this time?" Leora didn't sugarcoat. "Because he's struggling, and people who make mistakes sometimes try to fix them in the wrong ways." The twins exchanged a look, one that carried 12 years of watching their mother rise on her own. Seren set her fork down carefully. "We don't want him in our lives. We don't know him." Kale nodded. "He's nothing to us. You're everything." Leora's chest ached. "You don't have to decide anything now," she whispered. "But know this. I will protect you. Always. Meanwhile, Darian's life crumbled piece by piece. His landlord changed the locks. His last few dollars went to filing legal papers. He slept in a homeless shelter, convincing himself that everything he did was justified. He owes me, he muttered to himself. She has everything because I wasn't there to hold her back. If I had stayed, she'd still be broke. In his mind, he wasn't the villain. He was the unlucky one, the forgotten one, the one who deserved a piece of her success. His resentment grew by the day, and soon resentment turned into action. It was raining hard the night Darian made his next move. Leora had just tucked the twins into bed when the doorbell rang repeatedly, urgent, frantic, almost violent. She checked the cameras. Darian, soaked, trembling, desperate.
He pressed his forehead against the glass. "Leora, I need a place to stay, just for the night." "No. Please, I'm your kid's father." "By biology," she said coldly, "not by action." His eyes darkened, and for the first time, she saw anger. "You think you are better than me now?" "I don't think," she said. "I know." Darian's breathing grew unsteady. "Let me in, Leora. I'm not leaving." She closed the door. As she locked it, Darian began pounding. "Leora, let me in!" The twins woke up. Fear replaced sleep in their eyes. And that night, Leora made a decision that would lead directly to the courtroom scene that opened this story. She filed for a restraining order. Darian received the notice 2 days later and panicked. If the restraining order was approved, it would destroy his petition for visitation. So he appeared in court, unprepared, unstable, and deeply desperate. Leora appeared too, composed, elegant, unshakable. The judge requested statements. Leora spoke with clarity. Darian spoke with emotion. But when the judge asked the twins privately for their input, their answer was simple. "We don't want him in our lives." Darian lost control. He tried to approach them. Security had to restrain him. And at that moment, as the courtroom watched in stunned silence, everything exploded. Darian dropped to his knees, begging, pleading, sobbing for another chance. And Leora stood there, unmoved. The moment Darian fell to his knees in the courtroom, the entire atmosphere shifted. The judge paused. The journalists leaned forward. Even the security guards froze mid-step. Leora stood still, her expression unreadable. But inside, something moved. Not sympathy, not regret, but clarity. Because kneeling wasn't a sign of humility for Darian. It was a tactic, a final attempt to twist the narrative in his favor. And this time, Leora refused to let him control the story. The judge's silence. Judge Fairchild, an older woman with steel-gray eyes, finally spoke. "Mr. Vos, please stand." Darian shook his head, tears streaking down his face. "Please, Your Honor, I'm begging you. I just want to see my children." "Stand," she repeated, firm now. Darian pushed himself up with shaking arms. His legs wobbled, but he remained upright long enough for the judge to continue. "Your emotional display does not override 12 years of absence. You did not call, send letters, provide support, or show interest." Darian sniffed loudly. "I was going through things." "So was she," the judge replied sharply. "But she rose. You fled." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Darian turned desperately towards Leora. "You don't understand. I was scared. I was young. I wasn't ready." Leora met his eyes steadily. "We were the same age, Darian. The difference is, I didn't run." Darian tries to rewrite history.
He took a shaky step closer. "But I loved you. I loved the kids. I panicked. But I'm here now. Doesn't that count for anything?" Leora held her ground. 12 years ago, those words would have shattered her. Now they didn't even scratch the surface. "You're here," she said softly, "because you saw my face on a magazine cover." His lips parted. The denial died before it could form. "You're here because you lost everything, not because you gained wisdom." The courtroom felt smaller, tighter, almost suffocating. Darian's breathing grew shallow. "You're wrong," he whispered. "I've changed." Judge Fairchild interjected. "Mr. Vos, from what I've seen today, you haven't changed at all." The unthinkable proposal. Just when it seemed Darian would break, he did something no one expected. He straightened up, wiped his tears, and forced a smile. "Leora, I have an offer." Her eyebrows lifted slightly, the only sign she was listening. "I don't want to fight you," he said softly. "I don't want to push this into a long legal battle, not for the kids' sake." Leora narrowed her eyes. "Get to the point." Darian stepped back and spread his hands. "If you give me something to help me get back on my feet, even just a little, I'll drop the petition." The room fell silent. Shock, disgust, disbelief. "Are you," Leora asked slowly, "trying to negotiate custody rights for money?" He swallowed. No, not money. Just help, a job, a place to live, something, anything." "You're trying to sell your role as a father." Darian's jaw clenched. "That's not what I—" "Security," the judge said, cutting him off. "Remove Mr. Vos from the courtroom, effective immediately." "No, wait!" Darian shouted as guards grabbed his arms. "Leora, listen! I didn't mean— Leora, please!" The doors closed behind him, and the courtroom exhaled. The judge's offer. Judge Fairchild turned to Leora. "Miss Maven, do you wish to pursue the restraining order?" Leora glanced towards the empty doorway. Darian's voice was still echoing in her mind, but then she thought of Saren. Cale. Their peace. Their safety. Their future. "Yes," she said. "I do." The judge nodded. "It will be granted. You and your children will be protected." Leora lowered her head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Honor." But before dismissing the room, Judge Fairchild added something unexpected, something that would change the entire trajectory of what came next. "Miss Maven, though today we witnessed chaotic behavior, I sense this is not the end of the matter." Leora looked up, puzzled. "Men like Mr. Vos often return when they feel entitled to something. Be cautious." Leora understood exactly what the judge meant. A quiet drive home. On the way back, Leora sat in the back seat of her USV, staring out the window as the city moved in blurs of gray and neon. Her driver kept glancing at her through the mirror. "Long day, Miss Maven?" "Long decade," she murmured. She didn't fear Darian, not anymore, but she feared what desperate people were capable of, especially those who believed the world owed them something. Saren and Cale rushed to hug her the moment she walked through the door. Leora knelt down and they wrapped their arms around her shoulders. "You okay, Mom?" Cale asked quietly. "I am," she assured them, stroking Saren's hair. "And you will be too." "What happened?" Saren asked. Leora hesitated, but only for a moment. "The judge believes your father needs help," she said gently. "Help I can't give him, and help he won't give himself." "Is he going to leave us alone now?" Saren whispered. Leora held her daughter's face in her hands. "I think today was a turning point," she said. "For all of us." But even as she said it, she felt the unsettling truth rise inside her like a warning. This wasn't over. Darian would come back. She knew it. She felt it. He would return, not for love, not for the kids, not for redemption, but for what he believed he was owed. And when he did, everything she had built would be put at risk. Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Leora stepped out onto the balcony. City lights shimmered below. Wind brushed her hair. Peace hovered just within reach. Until her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you won today, but I'm not done." Leora's breath caught. The turning point wasn't the courtroom. It wasn't the restraining order. It wasn't Darian's fall to his knees. The turning point was this message. Because it wasn't a plea, it was a threat. And Leora realized something chilling. The man who once abandoned her wasn't trying to come back into her life. He was preparing to destroy it. The text message burned in Leora's mind long after the screen dimmed. "You think you won today, but I'm not done." It was the moment the story stopped being about custody or regret or lost love and became something far more dangerous. Because desperate men did reckless things, and entitled men did unforgivable things. Darian Voss was both. The next morning, Leora walked into her office to a storm. Her staff, usually calm and composed, were whispering anxiously. Marin rushed toward her with a pale face. "Miss Maven, there's a situation." I exhaled slowly. "Show me." On the office TV, a morning talk show was running a story. Insider claims millionaire Leora Maven forced her ex into homelessness. A photo of Darian appeared on screen, sitting on a sidewalk, wrapped in a blanket, face downcast. The host continued. "A source close to Darian Voss says Leora leveraged her power and wealth to crush a struggling father who only wanted to reconnect with his children." Another commentator chimed in. "If this is true, it raises serious questions about the moral responsibilities of the ultra-wealthy." Leora closed her eyes briefly. "This isn't coming from a source. It's coming from Darian himself." Marin nodded grimly. "There's more." She pulled up a social media clip, recorded by Darian in a shaky selfie video. His voice cracked with fake vulnerability. "I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance. Leora won't even let me see my kids. She's using her millions to erase me. No father deserves this." The comments were brutal. "She's evil. She abandoned him. She's a monster. Cancel her company." Leora took a slow, steady breath. "Prepare a statement," she said. "Short, professional, and polite." Marin frowned. "Polite? After what he's doing?" "Yes, because he wants me angry. He wants chaos. He wants a fight." Marin swallowed. What should the statement say? Leora straightened her posture. "We will continue to prioritize the safety and well-being of the Maven family. No further comments at this time." It was the perfect response. Calm, collected, untouchable. But Darian didn't want calm. He wanted war. 3 nights later, Leora awoke at 2:13 a.m. to the sound of the security alarm screaming through the house. She shot up, heart pounding. "Mom!" Saren's voice echoed down the hallway. "Stay in your room!" Cale opened his door. "What's happening?" Both of you inside, lock it. She raced down the stairs as her home security system displayed a notification. Back gate breach detected. Her phone rang immediately. Her head of security, Jalen. Miss Maven, don't go outside. Our team is en route. But Leora wasn't listening anymore, because on the screen, a blurry figure was forcing their way through the back fence. A figure she recognized instantly. Darian. He was soaked from the rain, wild-eyed, gripping a metal pipe. Leora's stomach dropped.
He wasn't there to talk. He wasn't there to beg. He was there to confront, and maybe worse. "Leora!" he screamed from the backyard. "Open the door! We're fixing this tonight!" Her blood turned cold. "Police are on the way!" she yelled back. "Leave now!" But he rammed the pipe against the sliding door instead, cracking the glass. "You think you can block me out? You stole my life! You stole everything!" The twins screamed from upstairs. Leora grabbed the emergency panic button on the wall and slammed it. Alarms blared louder. Floodlights ignited the yard. A voice announced, "Security dispatched." Darian dropped the pipe and stumbled back, blinded by the sudden brightness. "Leora!" he screamed again. "This is your fault!" Sirens wailed in the distance. 2 patrol cars pulled up within seconds. Darian tried to run, didn't make it far. The officers tackled him to the ground as he fought, screamed, sobbed, clawed at the pavement. "I just want my family back!" But the most chilling part wasn't his screams. It was the moment the officers finally dragged him into the car. He turned toward Leora's window and smiled. A cold, empty, knowing smile. Like he had achieved something. Like this wasn't a failure, but the beginning of something worse. The next day, the restraining order became permanent. Darian was charged with breaking and entering, property damage, and violating a court order. But even as the judge read out the conditions, no contact, no proximity, no communication, Darian wasn't looking at her. He was smiling again. Something inside him had snapped. And Leora realized it. The man she once loved no longer existed. Only obsession remained. A week later, Darian's public meltdown reached its peak. And then came a twist no one predicted, not even Leora. Darian was found unconscious in a motel room after overdosing on alcohol and prescription pills. His suicide note was short. "If anything happens to me, Leora Maven is responsible." The media exploded instantly. What drove Darian Voss to this? Did Leora push him too far? A cold heart of a millionaire? Protesters gathered outside Maven Estates, holding signs like, "Give fathers a chance," "Leora destroyed a man," "Money isn't worth a life." Investors panicked. Stockholders demanded meetings. Partners postponed deals. And through it all, Leora stood silent. Not because she didn't care, but because she understood something the world didn't. This was Darian's final manipulation. The ultimate punishment for a woman who dared to survive without him. He wanted her reputation ruined, her empire shaken, her peace shattered. Even in desperation, he wanted to win. That night, after the news broke, Leora sat alone in her living room. Her hands shook for the first time in years. Was she responsible? Did she push too hard? Could she have helped him? Her mind spiraled. Then Saren walked in quietly. "Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart?" Saren sat beside her and took her hand. "He hurt you. He scared us. He tried to break into our home." Her daughter's voice trembled. "You didn't do this. He did. Cale joined them silent but firm, placing his head on her shoulder. And in that moment, Leora remembered something. She wasn't built from Darian's abandonment. She was built from survival, strength, sacrifice, resilience. She wasn't the villain in his story. He was the shadow she outgrew. Public sympathy began shifting. When the police report leaked, showing Darian's break-in attempt, opinions changed. When the restraining order details became public, the threats, the harassment, the messages, people reconsidered. Hashtags trended. Stand with Leora. Survivors speak. Protect single mothers. Commentators apologized. Journalists corrected their narratives. Investors returned. The world finally saw the truth. Darian survived the overdose. He was placed in psychiatric care, away from the media, away from Leora, away from the twins, away from everything he tried to destroy. But the damage had already been done. His downfall was complete. His reputation ruined. His future uncertain. His freedom restricted. His access to Leora gone forever. And Leora? She stood in the ruins of the chaos he created and realized she was still standing.
Darian stormed into the building as if the world still owed him something. The glass doors to Maven Estates headquarters slid open, revealing the polished marble floors, the towering digital screens, the staff moving with efficiency and confidence. This was Leora's world, a universe she built from scraps. But Darian didn't see any of that. He saw opportunity. He saw money. He saw leverage. And more than anything, he saw the chance to reclaim the life he believed should have been his. He pushed past the receptionist. "I'm here to speak to Leora Maven." The receptionist stiffened. "Sir, you can't—" "Oh, trust me," he snapped, loud enough for nearby employees to turn. "She'll want to see me." But Leora didn't come down. Instead, Ilya, her head of security, broad, expressionless, unshakably calm, appeared. "Mr. Voss," Ilya said, "you were told you were not welcome on this property. Please leave." Darian scoffed, raising his voice so the entire lobby could hear. "I'm here from my children. Is that a crime? Or is she trying to erase me from their lives too?" People murmured. Phones lifted. Employees exchanged nervous glances. Darian had learned something over the years. If you can't win with power, you win with chaos. He stepped onto the center of the lobby floor. "So this is how the great Leora Maven treats the father of her kids? Is this the woman the magazines praise? A fraud, a liar, a thief who built a company while depriving a man of his rights." A new voice cut through the room. "Enough!" The elevator doors opened. Leora stepped out. Silence washed over the building. She wasn't dressed for war. She didn't need to be. A simple cream coat, her hair pulled elegantly back, her gaze cold enough to freeze oxygen. "Darian," she said, "you are embarrassing yourself." He laughed bitterly. "Embarrassing myself? No. I'm exposing you." She didn't blink. "You're trespassing." Darian smirked. "Let the police come. I want the cameras. I want the world to hear how you turned our kids against me." Leora stepped forward, close enough to lower her voice, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "You left when they were babies. You didn't pay a single dollar of support. And the only time you've shown interest in being a father is now, when you think you can benefit from it." A few staff members exchanged looks. The tension was suffocating. Darian's face flushed. "That's a lie." Leora raised her hand. "I knew you would come here, and I knew you would make a scene." She turned to Ilya. "Bring it." Ilya walked forward carrying a black folder. He placed it on a nearby table. Leora opened it slowly. Page after page of documents were inside. She held up the first sheet, a printed email. "This," she announced, projecting her voice, "is an email you sent 2 days ago to a gossip blogger. In exchange for $50,000, you offered to leak private family secrets to damage my reputation." Gasps filled the lobby. Darian's lips trembled. That's misinterpreted." She lifted another document. "This is a record of the loan sharks you owe. The ones you told that you were reclaiming millions soon and that you'd pay them back after you got access to Leora's fortune." Darian's eyes widened with panic. And finally, she held up the last sheet, a screenshot of a message he sent to one of his friends. The text glowed clearly on the lobby screen. "If I can guilt her into letting me see the kids, the money will follow. She still feels guilty about the past. I'll use that." Darian staggered backward. No, I didn't. Leora, please." She closed the folder, her voice steady, cutting, absolute. "You didn't come for the kids. You came for the money, and now everyone knows." The building was dead silent. The humiliation hit him like a car crash. Security stepped closer. Darian shook his head violently. "This isn't fair. You set me up." "No," she replied firmly. "You set yourself up the moment you decided to weaponize your absence." He lunged forward, desperate. "Leora, please! I need you! I'm drowning!" "I know," she said quietly. "But you didn't come asking for help. You came demanding ownership of a life you abandoned." His breaths grew ragged. "Please, don't let them take me! Don't let them—" She exhaled slowly. "I'm not your enemy, but I am no longer your solution." She turned away, and Ilya signaled security. 2 guards stepped forward, gripping Darian's arms. He didn't fight. He couldn't. His legs buckled beneath him, his voice breaking into a pathetic, choking whisper. "I just wanted another chance." Leora paused, just for a second. Then she answered without looking back. "You wanted another chance at me, not at being a father." Darian's cry echoed through the marble lobby as the guards dragged him out of the building. Clicking cameras followed his collapse onto the pavement outside, a defeated man stripped of the last illusion he clung to. Inside, Leora stood motionless, composed, resolute, unshakable. But her eyes betrayed a single flicker of something deeper. Not sadness, not triumph. A release. 12 years of survival, guilt, anger, and fear finally exhaled from her body. She whispered under her breath, "It's over." The news spread fast. By evening, Darian's meltdown outside Maven Estates was already circulating online. Shaky phone videos, trending hashtags, armchair psychologists diagnosing him, strangers choosing sides. But inside her quiet penthouse, Leora muted every notification. She didn't want noise. She wanted peace. She stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city lights shimmer like scattered diamonds. The same city that once chewed her up and forced her to rebuild herself from ashes. Behind her, soft footsteps approached. "Mom?" A gentle voice. It was Saren, her 13-year-old daughter. Tall for her age, with Leora's calm eyes and a quiet presence that always made a room feel warmer. Right beside her was Arlo, her son, slightly under, but unfiltered, blunt, brilliant, and fiercely protective of his mom. Saren tugged at Leora's sleeve. We saw the video." Leora slowly turned. Arlo stepped forward before she could speak. "We're not upset, just confused. Why was he there?" Saren added softly, "And why did he say he wanted another chance?" Leora exhaled, kneeling down so she was eye level with them. "I wanted to shield you from this for as long as I could, but you're old enough now to hear the truth." They sat with her on the carpet, leaning close, listening without interruption. "Your father left when you were babies, not because of you, not because of anything I did. He left because he wasn't ready to be responsible. And today, he came back because he thought he could use you to get money." Arlo's face hardened. "So, he doesn't actually care?" Leora hesitated, not wanting to crush him, but unwilling to lie. "I think he cares in his own way, but not enough to choose love over desperation. And love without action isn't love at all." Saren leaned into her shoulder, whispering, "We're just glad you're okay." Leora wrapped her arms around them, holding them tighter than she had in months. "I'm okay because I have you two. You're the reason I never gave up." For the first time since the confrontation, she felt her body loosen, like the years of tension had finally cracked open and melted away. The sun rose quietly, painting the kitchen in a soft golden glow. Leora prepared breakfast, something she still insisted on doing herself, no matter how wealthy she became. Halfway through flipping pancakes, she paused. For years, she'd been surviving, building, protecting. Now, she could rest. A gentle knock sounded at the door. It was her mother, Eliara, carrying a small bouquet of white lilies. "Baby," Eliara murmured, pulling her into a hug. "I saw the news. How are you holding up?" Leora leaned into her mother's comforting scent, warm, earthy, familiar. "I'm okay, really." Eliara studied her face, then nodded approvingly. "I'm proud of you. You handled it with dignity." Leora swallowed, a lump forming in her throat. "I just don't want the kids to think any of this is their fault." "They won't," Eliara said firmly. "You taught them better." Together, they set the table. The kids joined moments later. The atmosphere was soft, healing, almost peaceful. Halfway through breakfast, Saren looked up. "Mom?" "Yes?" Are we done with him?" Leora took a breath. "Yes," she said quietly. "We're done." Arlo groaned with blunt relief. Finally! They laughed, a small, genuine laugh that felt like the first hint of spring after a brutal winter. Leora stood on a stage at a charity gala, the same event she once attended as a struggling single mother volunteering for free food vouchers. Tonight she was the keynote speaker. The audience quieted as she stepped up to the microphone. Her speech was simple. "I used to believe wealth came from money, but true wealth comes from survival, from rebuilding, from choosing love even when the world gives you reasons to be bitter, and from knowing when to close the door on someone who once walked out on you." The crowd rose in applause, but Leora wasn't thinking about applause. She was thinking about her daughter's shy smile, her son's fierce loyalty, her mother's unwavering support, her family, the one she built, the one that stayed. Later that night, as she stepped into her car, her assistant asked, "Miss Maven, if Darian ever truly changed, would you give him another chance?" Leora looked out at the city, bright, loud, unpredictable. "No," she said softly, "because life isn't about giving people chances they don't earn. It's about protecting the people who never left." She paused. Forgiveness is free, but access must be earned. She closed the door, gently, decisively, permanently. And as the car pulled away, Leora felt it. Not victory, not revenge. Freedom.